Hi everyone, and welcome to another episode of Legal Tings. Today we're talking about whether you and your spouse can use the same lawyer in a divorce. So here's what you need to know. In a simplified, uncontested divorce where both you and your spouse feel you can reach an agreement on all divorce-related matters on your own relating to the division of matrimonial assets, spousal and child maintenance, as well as all child custody terms and arrangements, it's sometimes possible to only have one lawyer represent either you or your spouse to prepare and submit the essential court documents required to get a divorce. If this happens, then one of you will have the lawyer represent and advise you in the divorce and prepare the papers which both of you can then sign because you've both already agreed to the terms. The same divorce papers prepared by one lawyer can then be accepted by the court for the divorce provided both you and your spouse agree on all the terms of the divorce. For this to happen, the other person who's not represented by a lawyer needs to be fully aware that they are entitled to engage their own lawyer to advise them on their rights, but that they are voluntarily giving up the right to have a lawyer separately represent and advise them. Just because one lawyer is handling the paperwork that both you and your spouse can sign does not mean that the same lawyer will be advising or representing both of you. Let's be clear, the lawyer can only represent and advise and act in the best interests of either you or your spouse, and not both. Under the rules that regulate how lawyers operate and deliver legal advice, the same lawyer cannot represent and advise both you and your spouse in a divorce because you will or could at least possibly have competing interests, which would then mean that the lawyer would be placed in a position of a conflict of interest, meaning that he would be unable to properly act in the best interest of only one person without possibly jeopardizing or harming the interests of the other person. And the same lawyer cannot possibly try to advance the interests of both you and your spouse at the same time. For some people, the thought of sharing a lawyer may sound like a good idea because it may allow them to share or split the legal costs of engaging a divorce lawyer. But this can sometimes lead to complications later on if the person who is not represented by the lawyer later then needs legal advice but cannot get it independently from the same lawyer because the lawyer is only allowed to advise the spouse who actually engaged him. With this in mind, it's important to know that you and your spouse are each entitled to engage your own respective lawyer to advise you on your rights, meaning to assess and evaluate the case and to tell you what the strengths and weaknesses of your case are and what you can realistically aim to get in a divorce, as well as how you should approach and conduct the negotiations with your spouse to get the best outcome. If you feel that you need to know this, then you should engage your own lawyer to represent and advise you, even though you and your spouse may be on good talking terms and able to see eye to eye on many, if not all, the divorce terms. So now you know. If you've enjoyed listening to this and would like to hear more, subscribe wherever you like to listen to podcasts and follow me on TikTok and Instagram. And remember, it's not rocket science. It's just legal things.